Okay, I'd like to call this regular meeting of the City of Coralville City Council to order, November 8th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoft.
Present.
Gross.
Here.
Gill. Present. Dodds.
Present.
Goodrich.
Here.
Okay, all council members are present, as is the mayor, city clerk, city administrator, city attorney, and several staff in the audience. I would entertain a motion to, well, I guess this next item is before we do the agenda, you threw me a curveball, don't we usually? We will do the proclamation first, and then we'll approve the rest of the agenda, I guess. Okay. So we'll keep it in order. It's my honor to read this proclamation this evening. City of Coralville. Whereas domestic violence is a human rights concern that affects individuals of every gender, race, age, nationality, religion, sexual orientation, and economic status. And whereas millions of domestic violence incidents occur in the United States every year, and whereas relationship violence is chronically underreported, and statistics from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence show that 1 out of every 3 cases is ever reported. And whereas domestic violence is a global problem, and the United Nations and other international organizations have recognized that freedom from domestic violence is a human right, and that governments have a responsibility to prevent and respond to such violence. And whereas the Iowa Supreme Court has recognized a strong interest in preventing domestic violence and responding to psychological and emotional needs of victims. And whereas there is a growing national movement, including 21 local governments that have passed freedom from domestic violence resolutions. And whereas by proclaiming that freedom from domestic violence as a human right, the City of Coralville seeks to raise awareness of domestic violence and enhance domestic violence response in education and communities, the public and private sectors, and within government agencies. Now therefore I, John A. Lundell, Mayor of the City of Coralville, do hereby proclaim freedom from domestic violence is a fundamental human right, and urge all citizens to become aware of the tragedy of domestic violence, supporting victims, and those who are working towards its end. Be it further resolved, the City of Coralville reaffirms of commitment to respect and enforce victims' rights and address their needs. Signed in Coralville, Iowa, this 9th day of November 2016, John A. Lundell. It's my honor to sign this proclamation. And I will add that this proclamation is actually a summary of a much longer one that is equally important, that goes into more detail and information about the extent of this issue. And I'm going to sign that longer proclamation as well. So it's my pleasure to welcome forward to receive this Ellis Pan, and you have some other colleagues. Lois Cox, I know, is here. Please come forward. Sure, I'll step forward real quick for a picture. Whatever you'd like. Here, why don't you receive the proclamation first? We'll do that. Hi. Nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you. Why don't you hold one and we can help you out. Very good. Yeah. Please say a few words. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm proud to be here, and I would like to thank Mayor Lundell for giving me this chance to present our proclamation. My name is Alice Pan. I work at the University of Iowa College of Law Legal Clinic. Our clinic represents the Domestic Violence Intervention Program, DVIP. Bronas Petit, the Director of Client Advocacy Services, is here today to speak on behalf of DVIP. Before I turn things over to Bronas, I would like to say a few words about the proclamation before you. domestic violence is a global problem. It is a problem that still exists in every community, big and small. It affects the community as well as the individual and the family. Therefore, freedom from domestic violence is a human rights concern, which is as important as the freedom of speech, the right to education, and the right to clean water. Victim advocacy services can only help those that it knows are being abused. However, many victims do not report their abusers because they are scared and they feel embarrassed. Several other cities and local governments have responded to the underreporting of domestic violence by formally recognizing domestic violence as a human rights issue. By passing this proclamation, today, Coralville stands with nearly 30 other cities and local governments and the victims, acknowledging that it is their human right to be free from domestic violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Good evening. My name is Bronis Petit, and I'm the Director of Client Advocacy Services for the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. We would like to take this time to thank the Coralville City Council for adopting or accepting this resolution declaring freedom from domestic violence a human right. We believe that every person should be able to live a life free of fear and abuse from an intimate partner. According to national statistics, it is estimated that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience some form of domestic violence in their lifetime. During fiscal year 2016, the Domestic Violence Intervention Program helped 1,989 men, women, and children with services. There were 14,288 calls made by victims to DVIP's crisis hotline, and 266 victims of DV, domestic violence, were provided safe shelter. We believe that every victim of domestic violence deserves to be a part of a community that will support and fight for them. We must stand together as a community in order to prevent domestic violence. And we believe that by doing this, our hope is that we're able to bring more awareness to this issue, as well as getting other communities in our state to take similar actions. So again, thank you for adopting this proclamation. And our hope is that it renews our commitment as a community to end domestic violence once and for all. So thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Okay. Very good. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Okay. I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Could we remove item 12B?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 5 is citizen comments. This is the time on the agenda for anyone to speak about anything that's not already on the agenda. Would anyone like to speak this evening?
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Foster, and I am here on behalf of the Coralville Community Food Pantry. I serve on the board of directors for that organization, and I'm here to give you an update about all of the wonderful things that have been going on at the pantry the past month. During the month of October, we served 317 families. We distributed 17,455 pounds of food. We also participated in a couple of really wonderful events. Our Scouting for Food event was a tremendous success. We collected 5,400 items, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of the citizens of Coralville for their generosity in making that event such a success. We also hosted the Food Run 5K last weekend. We started and ended the run at the Coralville Youth Sports Complex. It was a gorgeous morning. We had about 170 participants, and not to brag, but you are looking at the proud last place finisher here. I walked the route with my 3-year-old son and my 9-year-old daughter. We had a lot of fun, And we actually raised close to $3,000 for the pantry last weekend. And I just want to close by saying thank you for everything that you do for the pantry. We are really making a big difference in the lives of a lot of Coralville citizens who are the most vulnerable. And we wouldn't be able to do that without all of your continued generosity and support. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Megan. My legs are still sore from that run.
Oh, yeah. I know, right?
Yeah. Are there any other comments from citizens? Yes, please.
My name's Mike Schroeder. I live on 19th Avenue, 717. 4 years ago, I had a neck injury, and the only therapy for it was to walk. And I wore the collar for a while, and if I got through a block, I was doing pretty good. But I worked my way up to several blocks, and I found out what a wonderful system of streets and sidewalks Coralville has completed. And then I found the Camp Cardinal entrance to the bike path over to Applebee's. And from my house, the round circle over to Camp Cardinal Road and through and then back to my house is about 3 miles. Through that summer, I worked my way up to 3 to 5 miles, and I walked every day. I can play golf again if I wasn't so terrible at it. 2 years ago, I had a stroke, so I still walk 2 or 3 times a week, and I love that bike path. But I'm advocating today for 3 blocks worth of sidewalk. That summer, they were finishing the shelter, boat ramp, kayak landing, I guess it is. And I don't think the kayak landing has ever been used. It's when the water's high enough, it's too dangerous to put people in boats on that little creek. I don't know how they ever called it Clear Creek. But as I was walking that summer, I watched the building of that kayak landing, and I wondered at every trip that I made to get over there, I was walking on grass. And if you've been past from the strip over to the shelter on Camp Cardinal, there's a beaten path in the grass, okay? There's a beautiful sidewalk that goes over to Melrose, 1.8 miles it even lists it. But I stopped into the engineer's office that summer and asked if that sidewalk was going to be completed since the sidewalk had come from Melrose. And he said, well, it's in the plan. That was 4 years ago. I think it's time. I don't do well on grass now since I had my stroke. So I walk on the street where there isn't even a marking for bikes. Have you ever seen a bike on Camp Cardinal? It's marked, but bikers go on that nice sidewalk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know exactly, I think most of us know exactly the section you're talking about there, along quality care storage units there and so forth. And I think we all want to see something done. It's just a challenging from an engineering standpoint because that retaining wall is so close to the curb. It's not an easy project to install, but we can certainly take another look at it. So
They just did some work there and planted sod.
Oh, did they?
But, they're trying to keep something looking nice there, but it's not any handier to walk on than bare dirt.
Well, great. Well, thanks for bringing it to our attention again. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, seeing no other citizen comments, move on to item 6, which is the Iowa River Landing, Part 7. Several items. A is a public hearing on a proposal to enter into a general obligation urban renewal lease purchase agreement in the principal amount not to exceed $4,500,000. I'll declare the public hearing open. Are there any comments? Are there any written comments?
No written.
Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And item B is consider a resolution.
Resolution taking additional action to enter into a lease purchase agreement and providing for and approving a purchase agreement, a ground lease, a ground sublease, a lease purchase agreement, a trust agreement, a sublease agreement, and related documents relating to the construction and operation of a retail building in the Iowa River Landing, authorizing the issuance of and approving the sale of certificates of participation in connection with the lease purchase agreement and related matters is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Hof, seconded by.
Second.
Close. Second by Gross. Discussion?
Yeah, Kyle Durand is here representing Oliver McMillan and can answer any questions we have. Paul Buss, the president of Oliver McMillan, was also going to be here, but his plane had a flat tire, and so he would have missed his connecting flight. So anyway, Kyle is here and can answer any questions in regards to this, but I just want to make sure, because there's a lot of agreements here, and just make sure everybody has an understanding. So we would have a lease purchase agreement with Oliver McMillan and Hodge Construction to actually build the building, and we would purchase it at the completion of the project. Oliver McMillan would be leasing the building from us for the first 5 years, and then they would be responsible for getting the tenant for the building and all of that. So that's their belief that there's not a problem getting the tenant for that space, and they've designed it based on that agreement, and that's why they're willing to lease the space back. So just based on all these different agreements, I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a good understanding of that. And Kyle, do you want to, since you'll help oversee the construction, you want to just come to the podium and tell them a little bit about the schedule of when things should happen with the building?
Sure. Thanks for having me here tonight. Basically, we are in negotiations with the tenant. We are very close to getting that under agreement and have a very good comfort level with the project as a whole. We're anticipating starting work here this month, and the ultimate goal is to have it complete by the end of June, with the tenant taking possession of the space and commencing their work, and they would be open and operational by fall of 2017. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. Any other questions for Kyle or Kelly?
I might just add a comment. Although I very much support the project, being consistent with my previous votes that I do not feel the city should be a landlord and owning the property, I will vote no on it just for that particular reason.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what the taxable valuation would be on something like that?
Yeah, we figured that up, and
It's gonna be at least 4. Well, that's just the building.
just
That's
the
just the
lease.
building.
Yeah, it would be a little over, probably about $3.5 million.
There you go.
I understand.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Nay.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Right.
Okay, resolution passes all ayes with Dodds voting nay. Item 7 is 704 Fifth Avenue, public hearing. This is a public hearing, a proposal to dispose of interest in real property at that address of 705 Fifth Avenue. Open the public hearing. Are there any comments? Any written?
No, Richard.
Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and consider a resolution.
Resolution approving disposal of certain real property at 704 Fifth Avenue to the Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds. Discussion?
Just a couple things. I did talk to the executive director, and the board did approve, because their original offer was subject to them, the board approving, and they have done that, and they will have to submit back what their ultimate plan is for the home, just so that, because it is a little narrow lot, and so just so that we can make sure that it fits in with that neighborhood.
Great.
And then they have begun on 1457
Yeah.
Valley View
Yeah.
with getting the garbage, and they've taken a lot of that out. So they
Yeah.
did start on that already too.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of getting that cleaned up so far, so.
Super. Any other comments? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item 8 is Clear Creek Stormwater Pump Stations 7 and 8 Improvement Project. The first item is a resolution authoring the execution of a community development block grant program disaster recovery National Disaster Resilience Contract. And this is for an amount of $1,871,496 to modify 2 stormwater pump stations that are vulnerable for flooding.
Resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute and sign that certain community development block grant housing fund contract 11 HSG-010, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Hoft. Discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Okay, resolution is approved, all ayes. Item B is a resolution for the same project, and this is simply to allow us to work with the East Central Iowa Council of Governments to help administer this program on our behalf.
Resolution approving a contract for community development block grant services with East Central Iowa Council of Governments for community development block grant program disaster recover National Disaster Resilience Contract number 13 NDRI 010, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Hoft. Discussion?
Yeah, I should have commented on the first one, but I'd just like to point out and thank both Ellen Hobble, the Assistant City Administrator, and Dan Holderness for their persistence on all of these, of continuing to follow up on each individual project that we had. There were so many on that original list so many years ago, back in November of 2008, that we had, and at that time, we didn't know where any of them would be done, how we could do any of them, and if you recall, Howard R. Green helped us get that list so quickly by November. So, that really set us a step ahead, and we're able to do a lot of this. And so just thank both of them for all their efforts at keeping, because a lot of these weren't very easy, and it took a lot of persistence and questions. So appreciate that. And we do believe, I believe next week, that the EDA representative will be visiting Coralville for a very short amount of time, for about an hour, just to see what was done here with their funding in regards to the flood. So it'll be nice to have somebody here that actually can see that provided a significant amount of funding. Yeah, that was 7.5, which was one of our first and most difficult projects to find funding for. So
Great. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. The third and final item for this project is entering a resolution authorizing an engineering services agreement with H.R. Green for the design work for this project.
Resolution approving an engineering services agreement with H.R. Green Inc. for Clear Creek Stormwater Pump Stations 7 and 8 Improvements Project, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gross. Discussion? Roll call.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item 9 is Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program. This is a resolution to identify a new target area for housing rehabilitation assistance. This new target area will be for owner-occupied housing south of Holiday Road, along and in between Valley View Drive and East View, South View Drives, and north of I-80. This resolution allows for the expansion of the target area if necessary.
Resolution to identify a target area for the CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Program application, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Hof, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Discussion? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item B for the is a resolution to commit monetary support to authorize application to the Iowa Economic Authority Housing Fund for rehabilitation funds.
The resolution to commit local monetary support and authorize application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority Housing Funds, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye. Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item 10 is Plaza on Fifth. This is a resolution of intent to dispose of real estate in that building on the Plaza on Fifth. It's a 7-year lease with SADEF, am I saying that right? Architectural glass systems for $16.50 per square foot triple net on the second floor of that building. And the deadline for alternative proposals is 10 a.m. on December 12th, and the public hearing will then be held on December 13th.
Resolution of intent to dispose of an interest in real property and soliciting alternate proposals for the leasing of an approximate 1,080 square foot office space on the second floor of the Plaza on Fifth project, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Second by Hope. Discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item 11 is urban renewal plan amendments. This is a resolution setting a date for consultation and a public hearing on proposed amendments to the Mall and Highway 6 urban renewal plan and the Coralville urban renewal plan. The public hearing will be on November 22nd, and the consultation will be November 10th at 2 p.m.
Resolution setting a date for consultation and a date for public hearing on the proposed amendments to the Mall and Highway 6 urban renewal plan and the Coralville urban renewal plan, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Second by Gill. Discussion?
This is just our annual update. You have to project projects into the future, so we're naming projects before you can use the tax increment financing on them. So this does not add any more area to any TIF, any urban renewal area. Just adding projects.
Okay, good. Roll call?
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Okay, resolution is approved, all ayes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Move to approve the consent calendar items A through R, excepting B.
Second.
Moved by Gill and seconded by Hoft. Discussion? Roll call.
Hope.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved as amended. City Administrator's report.
Yes, a couple of things. First, just remind people that are listening that they can still vote for 2 hours until 9 o'clock here in Coralville. And you can go on the auditor's website, Johnson County Auditor's website, if you don't know where to vote. So encourage you to go there and find out where you can go. And at the next council, before the next council meeting, that same evening, we will be having our annual legislative forum co-sponsored by the Iowa League of Cities, the Iowa State Association of Counties, and ECOG. So that will be here in council chambers. So if anybody is interested in legislative in this upcoming season, it's a good time to start hearing about what things are being considered. All the area legislators from Lynn and Johnson counties, and I believe the adjacent counties, anybody that's covered by ECOG is invited to participate. So we usually get about 11 legislators or 12. So it's a really good time to hear about what's going on and to get more informed. So just encourage people to come out for that process.
Very good. Thank you. Mayor's report. Just want to quickly remind the citizens that there are a number of boards and commissions that have vacancies, and so we are soliciting applications for people interested in serving on those, almost all of our boards and commissions. The information's on the website. The deadline for those applications is late November, so don't wait too much longer, but it's a great way to be involved in the city, and I would encourage you to consider serving Coralville by applying to serve on one of those boards or commissions. The other thing I was going to say, the Parks and Rec Director, Sherry Proud, sent me a note, and she may have sent it to the rest of the council too recently, just saying that we may hear from some of the citizens because they sent out these postcards to homes that have low-hanging trees and shrubs over their sidewalks. And some people don't take that as well as others. But I just want to state my full support for that program. As a dog walker and jogger, nothing is worse than getting stuck in the head by a pine needle or something like that. So I appreciate the citizens' compliance with trimming their trees up. City Attorney report.
I'd have to say, I think that your resolution on domestic violence is very appropriate considering the ongoing election problems that we have within the family, so to speak. I have nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing.
Nothing else? Okay. Committee and council members report. We'll start with you, Lori.
I just have a question about the block grant housing rehabilitation program, wondering what the timeline is for that once, if we do get successfully apply for that. Could you tell us, Ellen? Thanks.
Ellen Hobble, our Assistant City Administrator.
Yes, we will be finishing up the application. We're working with ECOG on that, and that'll go in January. Then normally we hear sometime in March or April, and if we're successful, we would get the contract late next summer. Then you have to go through some other work with historical and that type of work, environmental. We would start looking at probably actual work in houses late next year, but it is important if people have the opportunity and are interested, if they can complete a pre-application, that really helps what we're working on. It helps show interest for our application.
So they should take note of that area?
They should, and
is-
even if they're outside the area, we
Okay.
welcome the pre-applications just because it shows interest and it helps make our grant more attractive to the funders. And also then, as we noted, if we don't have enough in the target area, if we're successful, we would look outside the target area.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. Anything else, Lori?
Well, I do have one other thing.
Sure,
I think
go
it's
ahead.
significant that we did vote on the repair of headstones at the cemetery. I think that's a significant thing that they have been working on for quite a while, to use the perpetual care for that to keep up our cemetery. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, that those headstones that are being fixed are a lot of the founders of
Yeah,
our
so
community.
Clark
And those
and-
people, anybody that's really knows anything about the history of Coralville, were buried in these sections where they're starting the process. And so the Clarks and the Coziers and those families, that's a long time history of Coralville is where those headstones are being fixed. So it's kind of appropriate that it's the founders of our community.
Right.
But they take before and after pictures too.
Jill?
I have nothing, please vote.
Okay, very good. Tom?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mitch?
I don't have a lot. Well, I wanted just to touch base, and Chief Bedford's here, but I just thought I wanted to just take a moment. I think with the events of the last week, that I hope all citizens take a step back and really deeply show thanks and appreciation to our fine men and women in law enforcement. Tony Baminio, who was killed last week on the Des Moines Police Force, was a West High School graduate, and it was a very somber day at West. And I think it's just a very important time that we really, especially in this day and age, take a moment to say thanks to our men and women who service in the police force. That's all, Mayor.
Okay, well said. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. I know we're all bunged up about getting to the election results, but I'm going to drop a little culture on you here, okay?
Okay.
We had a Performing Arts Commission meeting today, and Mary Denby from the City Circle Place Selection Committee came out with the recommendations for the 2017 and 18 proposition here. And I just quickly, I'd just like to give you the lineup. New Play Festival, September 16th, probably 2 nights on either side of that, where new playwrights come in and they get 10 minutes, a 10-minute, one-act thing, and it's really a cool event. I highly recommend that. Peter and the Starcatcher, September 22, 23, 24. It's a prequel.
Wow.
Peter Pan prequel. It's going to be very good. Cinderella, Garden Variety Cinderella, always a super hit. December 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17. Chess in Concert. This is going to be a cool one. A concept album by formerly a member of ABBA, who's written the music, loosely based on Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. Very cool. City of Angels, April 27, 28, 29, May 4, 5, and 6. Book based on a book by Larry Gilbert, did MASH, Oh God, all those. It's going to be very good. And finally, Return to the Forbidden Planet. This is an interesting one as well. June 15, 16, 17. This is described as a jukebox musical by playwright Bob Carlton, based on Shakespeare's The Tempest and the 1956 sci-fi film Forbidden Planet. So it's going to be very unique. 50s and 60s
Okay.
music. It's going to be pretty cool. And that's
Sounds
all
good.
I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that report. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Hoft. All in favor, say aye.
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 Approved. Thank you.